If there's anything that this film has taught me, it's that the indie film industry is now at its most valuable.
What is up, everybody?
Random Random Man here. I usually don't shoot movie reviews so quick after another, but I have to make a special exception for this film, as I finally got to see the film adaptation of Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, which stars Thomas Mann, Olivia Cooke, R.J. Cyler, John Bernthal, Nick Offerman, Connie Britton, and Molly Shannon, and it's directed by Alfonso Gomez Rejon. Now, the plot, which is based off of the novel the same name and is written by Jesse Andrews, follows high schooler Greg Gaines, played by Thomas Mann, who spends most of his free time making parodies of classic films with his friend / co-worker Earl, played by R.J. Cyler, only to have his outlook forever altered when he is forced to befriend a classmate named Rachel Kushner, played by Olivia Cooke, who has been diagnosed with cancer. Now, I have finally seen this movie ever since it came to my local theater, and I have been really looking forward to it ever since the first trailer for it dropped, and my attention to see it only spiked since I found out that it was a huge hit at this past Sundance Film Festival, where it won the Grand Jury Prize and the Audience Award, which this film has also won. Haha, yes, Whiplash. It also went on to win 3 Oscars, of course, and was one of my absolute favorite movies of 2014. And, of course, I adore this film. I clearly own it. So, I have been just aching to see this movie. But, is it just an excellent film on its own? Let's run down the whole thing. Thomas Mann, of course, plays the lead character Greg Gaines, who also narrates the film, and I've only seen him in 2 other films prior to this one, those being Project X and Fun Size, both from 2012, and I'll admit, those 2 films weren't really that good in my opinion, but man, does Mann give the best performance I've seen from him in any film. He is just terrific here as the lead, and he really sells me on being this very awkward kind of loner character who also is a fanatic for film, and he just really warms up to me as a character. R.J. Cyler plays Earl, of course, the best friend of Greg and his co-worker, and this is his first film, I believe, and he is just fantastic here. He really has a nice camaraderie with Thomas Mann, and you really get the idea that these 2 are best friends and that he's also a film fanatic as well, and he also has his own unique characteristics to him. But let us not forget the actual dying girl in the title, Rachel Kushner, played by Olivia Cooke. Now, I haven't seen Ouija from last year, which she was also in, and frankly, I avoided that film because I heard it was pretty bad. And for this being the first performance I've seen her in a movie, she is just phenomenal here. She really is this character. Now, of course, she is stricken with cancer and has to go through all the notions of losing her hair and going through a bunch of emotional sensibilities. But I love the chemistry she also has with Greg and Earl. John Bernthal plays this really offbeat, off-kilter history teacher, and he is really very, very, very good. This is the best performance I've seen from him in any film thus far in his career. Molly Shannon plays this very creepy and imposing mother of Rachel, and she is just excellent for that type of role. And of course, Connie Britton and Nick Offerman play the awkward parents of Greg, and you get to see where Greg gets his character from. In fact, the mom is actually the character that forces Greg to go hang out with Rachel in the first place, but either way, these 2 characters are also just utterly spectacular. Everyone in this movie really gives a grade A performance, and in fact, this is probably my favorite cast of the year so far. The plot here was also enough to get me sold in viewing this movie, as it can be described as sort of being if a Wes Anderson film like The Grand Budapest Hotel were to be crossed with The Fault in Our Stars. Yes, 2 other films from last year that I loved, and for what Me and Earl and the Dying Girl was trying to go for, it worked. Jesse Andrews, who also wrote this book, adapted it into his own screenplay, and that actually kind of helped as it gave the movie more legitimacy in how the adaptation was transcended over into film. Now, I personally didn't read the book, but this made the screenplay just utterly fantastic. it's really funny. This movie is utterly hilarious. There are so many laughs cut in between that the majority of this film, I thought that this is actually the funniest movie of the year in my opinion. And it also has a tendency to get pretty dark as well. For the last probably 30 minutes, it gets pretty serious, so I would describe this film as more of a dramedy, if anything, but it works. I was also really surprised in how much the production design of this movie really had me captivated in its world. From the high school that our three leads attend to just the actual look of Pittsburgh itself. That's right, this movie takes place in the heart of that part of America, and it's just so fascinating to see where these people go and how they interact with others. And other technical aspects of this movie really had me just into this world throughout, from the editing to the cinematography. Now, this movie uses some long takes for the conversations that Rachel and Greg do have. And after this little movie came out last year, I really appreciate directors using that tactic more and more for other movies, as it just really had me more into the actual story itself. And of course, after Chivo Lubezki used it for Birdman, one of my favorite movies of last year, I really like how directors make this tactic just a part of the narrative itself. Of course, Greg also narrates the movie throughout, and just what this movie is going through as it flows well in its running time of about an hour and 45 minutes, which is pitch perfect in my opinion. I just think it comes together so nicely. And I forgot to mention the short films that Greg and Earl do make. These are just funny. They aren't really a big part of the plot, but they do set up in how much you get to know these characters and that they are film buffs, but also they're trying to make a short film for Rachel because, of course, she has cancer. And my favorite of these short films is the parody of one of my favorite movies of all time, A Clockwork Orange, and I really appreciated that. And the short film that Rachel watches eventually towards the end of the movie, it leads into a powerful last 10 to 15 minutes or so of the running time. I was truly moved by the ending of this movie. It was just so impactful that it really came together so nicely and had me just marveled in that I want to make short films now. I've been meaning to make short films for quite a while now, but of course I'm doing movie reviews, but I just never had the true motivation to do so. But after this movie, I'm really going to try to bust myself and get some short films to be made. I do have but one nitpick with this film, and it's minor, but I still have to address it. Sometimes this movie tried being a little too clever for its own good, and that, yeah, this movie's weird, quirky, whatever, whimsical, and all that jazz. But, you know, at times I was like, okay, it's a little bit glaring, but that only happened briefly, and this movie carries so many adjectives with it that I just truly love it. My final thoughts on this movie are that the fantastic acting, the super commendable writing, and the technical merits that this movie carries are just some of what makes this movie truly special. I love how this movie looks. I love how the themes of this movie really make it seem how filmmaking and even friendship, from all the impeccable chemistry of the cast once again, make it a movie that is truly worthwhile and further proof of why the indie film market is so valuable in providing entertainment on a small level, but providing huge and powerful moments on a bigger level. I love this movie once again. It is absolutely one of my favorite movies of 2015 thus far, and I highly recommend it. My final verdict for Me and Earl and the Dying Girl is 4.5 out of 5 stars. Thank you all, as always, for watching. Be sure to like this video, comment on what you thought of Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, subscribe to my channel for more, and I'll catch you on the next movie review.